Hey everybody, welcome back to Daddy Knows Best. Happy to have you. Today we're going to be talking about why men are, as they put it, checking out of college, but really not even getting a chance to go to college. Underfunded, undersupported in multiple ways, and I'm going to be giving some of my own commentary and add to this video. Shout out to Tribe of Men for getting some of the word out. His videos are a little bit more simple. They don't get into the details as much as I do, but Tribe of Men is doing a pretty darn fantastic job in helping people. So let's watch some of this video here today and see what they have to say.
Down more than 400,000 compared to 1 year ago.
So if you watch this video, this specific college, or in general, in the state, I believe it's Tennessee, has 400,000 less men going to college than the previous year, which is a lot in one state.
59.5% of college students are female.
And that's just in Tennessee. It's higher than that.
That's a record high. And men are only 40.5%. So why?
So when I tell you that 70% of people in college are women, that's not exaggerating. So do the math. If 40% here are men, that means 60% of people at college in this specific state. So on average, it's actually higher than that.
Why is this happening? We're here to provide some insights is Campus Reform Higher Education Fellow Angela Morabito. Ms. Morabito is former press secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. Angela, it's always good to talk with you. So
I want to mention that I don't know, I looked into her track record, but I don't know, she seems to have good intentions. At least she's speaking about this. Most feminists wouldn't dare to speak about this or even possibly put this in a little bit of light. But I have a small critique to talk about at the end, potentially, about, you know, not her directly, but this whole issue.
Why is this happening? Why are American males giving up on college?
Well, as these men give up on higher education, it's because higher education has largely given up on them. We see this at campus reform with how schools are treating, or I should say mistreating, their male students. We've seen instances at places like the University of North Carolina, the University of Tennessee, and many others where these colleges tell men that masculinity is toxic, that they are inherently oppressive because of the way that they were born, the way that...
So, the Tribe of Men doesn't get into the thick of the weeds of this, and we're going to continue on this video, but I wanted to say that they're going to make fairly clear in this video, it's not about what colleges are not doing for men. She says that colleges need to do, quote-unquote, more to, quote-unquote, support. It's really about society as a whole, who they're funding. You know, men are encouraged less to go to college. They're given less scholarships and grants and support financially to go to college, and it's also what the parents and the teachers in society is doing. Society and parents and teachers are telling women to go, fight for equality, conquer the world, go to college, become leaders, and they're if openly telling men that there's a problem with them inherently, that they hold the original sin, and if you are intelligent, and this was, again, I was born in the 90s, I was more intelligent than most students in my classes, and I was openly treated like there was something wrong with me, especially by feminist teachers, and they openly gave me worse grades when I clearly performed and could articulate and was the better student in most cases. It didn't matter. There was clear sexism in the classroom against men, and men weren't called upon. They weren't asked questions. They weren't encouraged as often, and especially the feminist teachers would openly encourage the quote-unquote sisterhood, where a bunch of women, would be friends and support each other and teach each other and help each other in the classroom. But the men naturally didn't really even do that to begin with, and they certainly weren't encouraged to work with each other. So there was this inherent quote-unquote sisterhood even in the public school system. But let's continue.
they were made. So I can't say I blame any man for saying he wants to skip out on paying top dollar just to be demonized.
That's another big point. I mean, not only do men not get the scholarships or the grants or the support, but college. I mean, there's a problem with this video is about men. We won't get too much into how colleges are a problem, but colleges are funded by our government and powerful organizations, and they aren't held accountable like actual businesses. Colleges should be held accountable with like businesses for competition. Not only should businesses hold them accountable by the quality and the performance of their students, businesses who hire college graduates should have measures of evaluating or expect those measures and, have a type of communication. There's this strange dichotomy where you're expected to go to college to be a good citizen and also to get a job, but the colleges have no responsibility to actually train you to be able to get into that job, to train you to actually perform in a career of any sort. There's no standardizations. It's not like you have a certificate or something that's, your degree doesn't really prove that you are able to, or competent to even perform in, your line of work. Of course, businesses are supposed to train somewhat, but businesses and companies don't have the attitude or want to put in the effort a lot of the times to train somebody. And you're expected to have these types of skills, and there's no evaluation or transparency, and they certainly don't network with each other. Again, you're expected to go to LinkedIn and talk to business managers and put in hours and hours and into resumes and cover letters and represent yourself. But these colleges, there's no responsibility upon them. And yet these people are highly paid, and college professors are made to be out as, some of the best people or the most important people in society, college professors, when they openly brainwash your kids and are some of the most dangerous and destructive people, in our countries and for society. But let's continue.
So University of North Carolina, University of Tennessee, tell us what specifically are they doing? Is it just a hostile atmosphere, or are they doing something specifically?
I'm very happy that CBN News, you can talk about these issues on a bigger scale, a macro scale, but actually giving people examples of how men are targeted and pushed out is really good. And I'll mention some of those. Let's see how she addresses it.
Well, there are hostile atmospheres across the country, but those two schools in particular have hosted programming that was blatantly anti-men. It told.
So what she's saying here, if that doesn't make sense to you, is that the school, again, there's all these scholarships in these programs. There's these societies and the teachers and the public school and society at large, the movies, the entertainment, the music. And then at this college, there were actually either classes or courses, especially if there's social studies or gender study type classes at these colleges. And some of these, they make them required. And if they're not required, you're certainly going to hear about some of this from a feminist one way or another at these colleges. So these men are, again, openly told that their competitiveness is dangerous, that taking risks is toxic and needs to be eliminated. Their desire, to achieve is an inherent problem, and that they need to fix themselves and become more like women, essentially. Open up with their emotions. If you're stoic or well spoken, again, you as a man speaking up or disagreeing or arguing or even being a leader, just like a woman can be a leader. But if a man's a leader, that can be seen as mansplaining. If at any point a woman feels she's not valued, or feels like you're a confident a man, and that makes them feel uncomfortable, they can use any of these types of jargon and words, and essentially throw you out of the discussion, the social group, the college, just about anything. So let's continue.
Told them that masculinity was inherently harmful. It told them that being a man, being male, was something that, almost like something they needed to fix in themselves.
It's not almost. They're literally told that. And these people are openly teaching men and people that they need to essentially outcast and hunt. People who, are stoic, in regards to politics. Even if you're a libertarian, the FBI has openly said that they're targeting those types of people. You're told that if you strive for excellence, let's say you have some kind of honor or what could be considered a privilege. Again, they can call anything a privilege. Again, they can use any type of jargon or stereotypes against you to outcast you. I'll share a quick little experience with you here. That when I was going through the public school, I'm not religious anymore, but I was raised religiously, and I remember very, very clearly that we were given the teacher told us a story, an example that we were supposed to react to. We were supposed to give an example, and this was like a quiz. It had like 4 or 5 questions, and then the big part of this was writing out how you would react to this and what you would do in this situation. So the situation is, I forget, if it was religious, it was something like that. You're supposed to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's a little bit more, maybe a virgin, or maybe somebody who is a little bit uneasy about possibly, having a relationship. And it's set up that somebody who's a really recent girlfriend, or somebody who, is somebody essentially coming on to you, who's a new relationship or a new girlfriend or whatever, and how you would react. And again, I being raised in a very religious household, and also I like to communicate verbally. If somebody was coming on to me physically, especially with those religious beliefs, and I like to communicate, I think that somebody coming at somebody physically, and it was the woman coming on to you, you as a man, was the perspective of this. And I spoke out very, very sternly that I would say no, I would disagree, I would ask hard questions, to try to figure out what this person's motivations and intentions were. Possibly try to talk to this young woman's parents, and more. And this is me as a teenager. I was a very straight-minded, straight as an arrow. I steeled myself, anchored myself, I guess you could say, kind of child. And the teacher gave me, I think they barely failed me on that test or quiz. It was more than, I think it counted more as just a regular quiz. And I was shocked that I was treated that way. And the teacher wrote a bunch of stuff that I should be more considerate, and I should be more open-minded, and essentially it was left at that. So essentially this teacher told me that, culturally, she probably didn't know all the beliefs that I had, and my upbringing and my personal beliefs, but she didn't actually disagree with any of my points. Again, they don't debate you. These types of people don't discuss issues with you. They don't consider facts. They don't consider your feelings. They have an agenda, and they can mark down your grade. And why am I even mentioning this story is because I had in public school 2 different teachers who marked me down intentionally because of my viewpoints, or how I came across and how I wrote and how I spoke. I was very nice and very considerate, but very well written and well spoken. And in college, I had really 3 professors in total who really marked down my grades, and also took me down. And this has huge impacts. You know, we might not be as extreme as Japan, but your grades are how you evaluate yourself and see yourself as a potentially smart person, how you're going to judge yourself to see your potential. If a kid is failing, the parents and the teachers and society at them will say that they don't have potential, they can't become, you know, or do great things, or have a good life, and etc. So a teacher or professor, a college professor, any of these types of people, taking down your grade is directly affecting, you know, potentially your, you know, your standing in society. It's a form of, you know, social control and social pressure. And people act like you can't criticize professors and these types of people, but in a way, in many ways, they directly control, you know, you know, they get to pick and choose, you know, who becomes, you know, affluential, or, you know, steer things, control things, direct, you know, where people might end up, and, you know, how people view themselves. And, you know, so if teachers see a certain type of attitude or a belief, they'll try to stamp that out. We're going to get back to this video here, but another really short story adding on to this is, there were, you know, this isn't much of a story. I won't tell you the whole story, but I used a word in an English class. One of these teachers that hurt my grade, and I used the word stewing or stewing in a poem, which is short for stewing, which is often a southern word that was used for essentially being cooked outside, with all the heat and the humidity and the sun being down on you. And if you're not familiar with being down in the South or anything like that, it can get very humid and you can feel like you're being cooked or boiled. So if you're out there in the high heat and the humidity. So the teacher didn't like that and openly acted like I was strange, openly acted like it was a problem, and didn't invite me to explain what that word meant, and openly really was acted triggered. And I could clearly that was one of the few times that I ever showed any Southern culture in school. Again, this is deep in the South, and this school systematically was pushing and targeting Southern culture. And then people wonder why we don't have, where's the culture in the USA? I guess our culture is fast racing cars. Well, we don't even have that much of that racing or drag racing culture. If you say drag, it means something else different, completely different now. Or hamburgers or whatever. That's not really American culture. There's all kinds of different culture that's been in America in different ways, but it's been systematically eliminated. And I want to make that a comparison here, because that's the exact same thing, that the powers that these public schools have. And it was the same kind of thing that was done against the Native Americans as well. Again, I've mentioned, you know, whites being hurt or targeted in certain ways. There's the public schools and our government in general has done bad against all kinds of people. And this push to force people to assimilate or normalize, they love, these progressives love saying that kind of stuff, just like when they say the new normal. This is how they create, or one of the ways that they make their new quote unquote normals. So let's continue. You know, you want to be normal, don't you?
So those are just two examples of something that's taking place across the country, and it's more than just programming. When I was at the Department of Ed, I saw firsthand how these Title IX processes at schools can really be used to mistreat men. And while the Trump-era Title IX rule has gone a long way to solving that, it doesn't solve the core problem that universities really don't treat their male students very well.
Okay, if you don't know with this Title IX type of thing, I want to break it down with you, because they didn't have the time, or they didn't want to bother explaining that. Essentially, it was a law that was put into place where colleges were given lots of power, essentially to, kind of choose if they want to get the government involved or if they don't. So they can, everything is supposed to go to the government level, but they kind of break the law. The colleges do. It's essentially if a woman says that she's been harassed in any way, at colleges. And again, I went to a religious private school where most men were very, very well behaved. I only heard of one instance where a man was asserted to have possibly have done something wrong, and it was at a party which this religious school really didn't support, didn't allow, and was pretty fairly against any type of partying, and it was something that was definitely non-sanctioned activities. I don't know if alcohol was involved or what, but anyways, most men behave very well, but there's these intercoms at most colleges. It's considered a law that like every 100 feet or so, and there's a place where a woman can push a button. Of course, you can use it for emergencies and other things too. But a woman can press a button, and it'll immediately, make it so that the college administration and even the police are immediately contacted, for harassment. Of course, I didn't feel bothered by that or targeted, but there were times where I thought it was kind of annoying, because these types of that type of system cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to put all across this campus, and there were very few. It was very rare for there to be any instances like that at all, and I always had the best of intentions, and there were programs for women. For example, I mean this college again was very very religious. There wasn't any really much of any gender studies or social studies for quote unquote feminism, but there were still training courses to teach karate and self-defense for women against violence. So women were openly taught to see men as a threat, and they were openly being trained to defend themselves. I'm not against women being able to defend themselves. I think that's a great thing. But it was very rare if men ever did anything. Very, very rare. And most men at this college were weak in general. They would give women anything they want. I had a roommate who had dated a girl like 3 times, and it was, you were assumed to try to get married really fast, and after 3 dates I was in love at one point and willing to do anything, and this guy was buying like a French dip sandwich, and he had like no money, and the girl couldn't even be bothered to text or call him back, so he left it at her door. Imagine having like no money, being broke in debt, and then you try to buy a girl her favorite sandwich, and she can't even be bothered to text or respond to you or anything. I don't even think he ever got a thank you, for buying her favorite sandwich for her. But again, men are constantly, told that they're being watched and targeted, and because there's the narrative with that 4-letter word, women being violated, which of course is terrible when it ever happens, but all men are told that, even if you have the best of intentions, you're constantly reminded that there's something wrong with you, and that there's something potentially wrong with you, and it kind of gets us into situations where men are ready to fight men or report men if there's just an argument, or let's say, their people are being very loud when they're doing their bedroom activities or anything. There's people who will call the cops or try to, there's been times where, there's these situations where a father can't even go to the grocery store with his daughter because people are calling the cops or giving them extremely bad looks, or there's men openly trying to challenge or threaten the father because they think the father is, you know, a panda, if you know what I mean by that. You know, somebody who goes after, young people, I guess you can say. So you as a father can't even walk out in public. And it'd be one thing if they're this, again, this happening once, or those types of things happening at all is unacceptable. But you know, people being so hypersensitive and hyper focused on those issues because of that narrative, is a problem as well, isn't it? And I won't get too much into the older people targeting kids, but when there have been real examples of people like trafficking and doing terrible things, places like Planned Parenthood have openly known and openly helped these people and protected these types of people, so they don't lose that customer, because they think providing that service is more important than reporting these people to the government or to the police, but making them criminals. They think it's more important to do what the woman wants, even if it serves that person, that handler, or that abuser, even if it helps the abuser. So I hope that you understand what kind of world that we're really in right now. And then you wonder, again, people wonder why marriages are also going down. Not only are there all the the narrative that women have to be taken care of, and that men are always the providers, and they have to give over everything to a woman who's essentially helpless or can't help herself after a divorce. But then you have this that happens before all of that as well. And then men are being pushed out, not giving the good jobs. That's one of the points I'm going to be talking about. And most the upcoming generation can't even afford to get a house. And then the average woman expects like a $5,000 or $10,000 ring and a $50,000 wedding and a nice like a new car or a pretty new car to drive in. And most of these young men don't have that kind of money. It's just not feasible in our kind of economy and what people are being paid. And yet we constantly pour in immigrants and allow people to invade this country, and strip us of our wealth. And we ship all of our industry and manufacturing to foreign countries. But let's continue.
And it's preferential treatment, is it not, for females?
Very much so. And look, gender equality, not a zero-sum game. I think it's wonderful.
Exactly. That's the point. It's not about really what colleges aren't doing for men, even though they're, again, let's talk, if you talk about equality, things are clearly not equal here. It's about what they can be doing or should be doing. It's what they're doing for women that they're not doing for men. And again, that I hope that makes sense. It's not that maybe they should do just as much or more for men. It's that maybe these, you could have a way of balancing these things out. But again, feminists believe that there needs to be this big push because they think that they're creating the balance and the fairness. They want there to be 50% of politicians that are women, 50% of all good jobs, all the good desirable jobs are women or more, and they don't really care about the consequences. And that's one thing I've brought up on my channel over and over and over, the social consequences. And they're gonna bring this up, and we're gonna talk about one of the huge consequences that I've brought up before on this channel. But feminists are not held accountable, and it doesn't look like they will be ever held accountable. Just like Hillary Clinton or Obama or some of the things even Bush did, it doesn't look like these types of people will ever really be held accountable for the things that they've done, or who was control when we essentially heavily armed, ISIS or the cartels. We essentially heavily armed them. You want to strip away the ways of protection, that people can defend themselves, but yet we leak and provide ways for people to essentially become extremely powerful armies that also want to destroy the Western world, or conquer. You know, so these imagine that you as a man can't even get into college, you can't even get a decent job. You're constantly told that you're violent, you're problematic, you're dangerous, that there's something wrong with men, that you inherently need to figure out how you are a problem. And it's not if you are a problem, figure out how you can fix yourself as a man. And then you're still not good enough, and that you're supposed to sit there and listen to the rants and the ravings and the demands and the expectations regularly from these women and these people, and you can't speak up and say anything. You can't do anything, and you can't be redeemed, even if you wanted to be redeemed. It's the same thing with the critical race theory and the race-focused, obsessed people, and some of these gender-obsessed people as well. Beyond women, there's people who are obsessed with the transgender and the LGBT and those types of people, and you can never be redeemed. You can never, no matter how much you capitulate or support them, you'll always be a problem, and you'll always be seen as the enemy. Let's continue.
Colleges and universities want to help their female students. There are hundreds of schools across this country that have women's centers. That's great, but there are virtually no men's centers, and we both know if that was reversed, if there were men's centers everywhere and nobody helping the women, that would be a national scandal, as it should be. So colleges need to realize that they need to be supporting all of their students, not just those who fit certain demographics.
Angela, and I know you contend this begins before college in K through 12 public schools, so
that's what I mentioned as well. That's really the bigger issue. It's really our society at large. Again, it's the scholarship, not only the money, the scholarships and the grants and the funding that is heavily focused for women. There's about, for every one scholarship or grant that's for men, there's about 20 for women. If something like if there was anything in society where men had that kind of advantage, people would be freaking out, and they would be something that would be on the news. It'd be that everybody be talking about. They'd be writing news articles and books. Oprah Winfrey would talk about it. The View would talk about it. All these people would be freaking out. But it's just normal that women have all these like 100 huge advantages, and it's all paid by men and taxpayers, and all these government type people are also taking their part in the profits, and essentially the pillaging of America and the twisting or the corrupting of education. They don't. These colleges aren't even neutral. It'd be one thing if they would teach all kinds of different, opinions and views. It'd be one thing if they gave you all kinds of different views and discussions. But if you disagree with, a lot of any of these leftist type ideas, not only will your professors hurt your grade, again, which I mentioned which will affect your potential to get hired, they will also even kick you out, or suspend you. Young men or men in college these days know very well that you can't debate a feminist on a college campus. And if you're in somewhere like Berkeley, it's the college. A lot of these colleges will turn a blind eye if they actually commit violence against you, like they did try to do on Jordan Peterson or different speakers they don't like, and men. You don't think that they'll trash your apartment, vandalize your car, and maybe steal things from you, and they can openly yell at you and all these things. Let's continue though.
it has a lot to do with the attitude one size fits all, so tell us about that.
very much so. Well, one size does not fit all in education, and it never has.
That's a really big point, and I do enjoy that they bring this up. I'm gonna kind of slightly disagree with the overall point, but there's all kinds of different minds. There's all kinds of different people, and you do need some kind of standardization. But but the problem is that students, not only are not given or allowed to learn in different ways, but past a certain point, let's say, after middle school, you should be able to specialize and focus on some things that you're interested in. Like you could, almost like college, take some extra special classes, different trades, finance, accounting. You could, learn or different types of skills that are, needed in the workplace. But colleges don't do these types of things. When I graduated college, and most people, I meant high school, most people, I didn't even know what college was, and when I graduated high school, I didn't know of any jobs around me that would hire. I look around, and there's like there's some bankers, there's a hospital, and you can work for fast food, or you can work for like construction or like a mechanic. There were like 5 jobs that I knew of, and there's really not very many. There's only like 10 type of basic jobs, and I live in a fairly big city for my state, but there's not a lot of prosperity or a lot of not a lot of jobs that are available. And imagine that if you go through college, and and if you get to this point and you've been trained to think a certain way, and then the world isn't like the way you think it is, or doesn't think the way you think it is. And that's really the point I'm trying to get to. I openly said it at college, and I was looked at and told that I was a crazy person, because questions were written in an emotional phrasing. I had a teacher who actually asked a question, and it was on a test, and there was 4 answers that you could give, and the answers were all emotional, based on confidence. Like, are you a little bit confident about this? Are you fairly confident? Are you really confident? Or are you essentially extremely confident about how you feel about this question? And I brought it up to the professor. I'm like, why are you bringing up emotional questions? And it wasn't something that I thought even pertained to the class that much. It wasn't completely off basis, but the question wasn't even that good of a question. And then we were supposed to respond in a more emotional way. And it was I speak and understand English better than most. There were people in my English class who arguably had a 10th grade education English, and these people were getting just as good, if not better, grades in English than me, because of that. That professor didn't like me. Most of these people in colleges are coming out. If you've seen these people on Twitter, Tucker Carlson has also joked about some of them as well. These people can't even speak English hardly. They can't articulate it. They can't write it. And these people think that they are highly intelligent, and that it's their responsibility to change and mold and improve society, when they don't even have a skill. They can't even perform a basic job. These are the kind of people who a lot of the times you wouldn't even trust to cook your fast food for you at McDonald's or wherever. And these people are in positions of power and affluence, and they're getting paid, to sit there and to make commercials, and hire only women, or hire diversity hires, and all these fake little programs to make the company quote unquote look better. Humanitarian actions and these things that these companies do, and these people aren't interested in building the companies or building society. They're certainly not interested in understanding or giving men what they want. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Victoria's Secret, they tore that down, and that was a company, it wasn't for the quote unquote male gaze. Victoria's Secret was a company that really was about women, and when they started, it was about women's empowerment. And Victoria's Secret, she has a secret, and and she gets to do what she wants, and that's what that was about. But you can't even have these types of things, and we'll be talking about the fat acceptance and these types of things in the future as well.
But if you look at much of the recent scholarship on the way that young boys and young girls learn, they learn very differently. And the way that most...
This is one of the points I am going to agree with. In general, men are more physical and women are more social and emotional and possibly even mental. But, but so that's not taken into consideration. And it really should be. But again, they make it out that, again, we're talking about averages. There's lots of men who can learn and with lectures and just in a classroom setting, but the big issue is that critical thinking is not encouraged. There was again times at college where I would ask other students what they thought the lesson or the most important thing was from what we studied, and this wasn't like literature or something about morals. This was things that were like everything from like accounting to supply chain to economics, and they could not rationalize. They could not formulate or articulate how these things could be applied in the real world, and they could not conceptualize actual ideas and how they could actually be implemented. These, and it's the same way these college professors, a lot of the times, are not teaching for people to have, you're just supposed to trust them. You're just supposed to believe them. You're not supposed to have critical thinking ability. Look for, even when there were exceptions to the rules, when we were taught that there was a certain rule, they would never teach us what the exceptions were and when the exceptions were important. And we're not talking about studies or statistics here where, the majority of something is to be considered. We're talking about that, there's rules that apply, like, with mathematics, and these people won't even be bothered to explain. We'll get to some more of this video here in a second, but I want to make this point. In regards to mathematics, I bring this up too because I always liked math. I always wanted to succeed at math, but college professors would not explain to me how this math would be used, especially once you get into algebra. I could do percentages in my head and some math. I can't calculate, huge numbers, but I can do some basics like 121 times 3 is like 300. Was that 363? And things like that. And most students couldn't do anything like that. And I could do percentages, and I could find, if you give me a range, like some potential answers, and you give me a question like what the range was, I could formulate, which answer was most likely to be right, which was much more, applicable or much more likely to be used in a situation where you're trying to find, the range of something. Is this a problem or is it not a problem? And you quickly do those types of things. And we were never given programs and told or taught like, anything that was practical, like forecasting and scheduling and like estimations. We were, and compound interest rates, and anything regarding finance. I mean, imagine if these colleges were actually teaching kids not only in an effective way, but not only are they not teaching in an effective way. Imagine if they were teaching actually good material. So they're teaching bad material, and they're teaching that bad material badly. So it's bad on bad. So let's continue.
Schools are set up really cater to the way that young women learn, and they leave these male students behind.
Exactly. That's the point I was making. When I asked questions as a man, I would be often ignored. They wouldn't know how to answer my question because I would ask a straight to the point question on how, something was relevant or if something was important. And so, and I wasn't trying to disagree or challenge the professor. I was asking how is this used, or how does this idea connect? And they could not explain that. And and often I was just ignored. They wouldn't even attempt to explain to me, and because I didn't understand sometimes a core, something in the beginning of a course or beginning of a semester, me not understanding that core issue or that important piece of information would affect, essentially throw me off course or hurt me or fail me because I didn't understand, that information that was essential. How many men how do you think that they have the intention of making sure that young boys really understand, the important, what they need to know? Again, with No Child Left Behind, we've dumbed down the schools, and kids shouldn't be left behind, but it should be more of a competition. They're dumbing down the schools to the average kid to help bring everybody to the same level. If, there would be, again, not everything is fair, but if we had more, if you encouraged everybody to be as smart as possible, on average, everybody would be smarter. Yes, there would be gaps, there would be differences, and that's how it is in life. Some kids try harder, some kids are naturally have more skills or ability in certain ways. Again, you're not told as a kid to find your skills, your aptitudes, or your abilities. You're told that memorizing is the most important thing that, is relevant. And in regards to information, you're not, they didn't teach you core concepts. And a lot of the times I brought it up to multiple teachers and they would just ignore me. That simple memorization is a complete waste of time because we have all this technology that can remember and analyze and give us information far faster and far more effectively than us just memorizing things. And we only have the ability to remember or memorize something for 3, 4, 5 years, and then we forget about it. We forget about 80% or more of everything we learn if we don't use that information regularly, because we have to be, our minds can only retain and be focused and learn so many things. So I mention that because if you as a young man aren't being told how or what you can do regarding information, how it's applicable in your life, how you can use it, how it is used in the world, how somebody else is using that information. You can't just tell me with algebra or trigonometry that, they didn't even bother to say something kind of ridiculous like, people with rocket ships. Oh yeah, the people designing the rocket ships or those space shuttles, the people who went to the moon. They were using complex algebra and trigonometry. They didn't even bother to tell me that. They didn't even bother to tell me that. So most people forget all these things that they were taught. Most of it was fairly useless to begin with. They weren't taught skills or taught anything that was relevant. And they were taught how to learn badly. People aren't, again, taught to think critically. You're not taught to evaluate, see the pros and the cons, do a cost-benefit analysis, look at statistics. There's people who openly say that statistics are racist, that statistics are a problem. There's people who are openly twisting psychology for political ends and science. You can arguably say that science and psychology and these things almost don't even exist anymore because these things are being twisted to political ends. There's people who they have openly said, these leftist types, that truth and reality is defined by the majority. And then people have gone back and asked them in really tough questions, like, let's say if everybody's completely wrong, but 99% of people agree that something is correct, is it better to believe the lie, or does, do the 99% of people determine what is true, even if it's wrong in regards to science or to statistics or mathematics or nature or biology or anything? And a lot of these people openly said, many of them, and they openly said that the majority determines what is real. These are the same people who say feelings matter more than facts. I actually openly started asking people at college, as I started to learn and think more, and asked people, do people's feelings matter more than facts? I mean, it's one thing to go in people's faces and tell them, things that make them feel uncomfortable, or things that are hard to accept, or things that are difficult to, they're impactful, or they're challenging, or that, they're not easy to accept. We're not talking about, people who are rude or make a problem. We're talking about that, you in society shouldn't be doing things that other people don't accept. You shouldn't live a certain way. You shouldn't do things a certain way. And we're focused on the collective instead of the individual. And again, America and Western societies in general were focused on freedom. And that's what has made them great and made them prosperous. The government, for example, the government is not here to make everybody comfortable. The government is not here to make everybody equal. The purpose of any good government is to protect people's freedoms. And different people will take different actions and do different things that will have different risks, different rewards. Different people have different lifestyles. Some people don't even want to be rich. Some people do. Some people have more different priorities, different lifestyles, different cultures, and you arguably can't, and you shouldn't make all those things equal, because it's essentially, in a way you can see it as competition. Again, these types of people are Marxist. The funny thing is, they believe in the principles of Marxism, that these types of things exist, that the strongest always take advantage of the weak. They believe that anybody who's more intelligent will always take advantage or hurt somebody who's less intelligent, somebody who's stronger. If you're a male, if you're more masculine, if you have more testosterone, that you will always hurt women in one way or another. These people openly believe these types of things exist, and that's why they think they have to fight against these types of things for quote-unquote social justice. And we don't openly speak out against or how Marxism is a part of our society. This started decades and decades and decades ago. Marxism has been taught and promoted in our public schools. It's a foreign concept, and people have openly disagreed with me that, I as a man would not take an opportunity to do something wrong or problematic if I was given the opportunity. People openly disagreed with me that people can make moral decisions that or make choices that disadvantage them. And you might say, how does that make sense? Because these green, quote unquote, people who want to make America poorer, who want to make people, the West have to pay for their sins of success and build up other nations. That the USA is accountable for all this global warming and green. We have to do all these green programs, but of course we don't hold China accountable or any of those types of things. But these are the same people. When they say those types of things, they might potentially lose financially, but a lot of them are becoming rich off of it. They're champagne socialist, and they won't see in their lifetime the consequences of these types of things, and they believe that they need to do these things because ultimately they are the privileged, they are the advantaged, and they feel a responsibility to change or improve things for other people. But instead of giving of their time or of their money to educate and serve and finance the disadvantaged, instead of actually helping people, they impose beliefs that stifle and cripple and limit, other people. And essentially they are being selfish because they get to pat themselves on the back, and all of their friends get to pat themselves on the back and support each other in their echo chambers of who was more virtuous and who was able to dox somebody who was problematic, who was able to, stop a strong man, who made the better insult against the orange Cheeto man, and that's one reason they hate Trump so much, because he was a strong, masculine man. I don't love Trump, and we're not going to focus on him, but that's one reason they these kinds of things exist. I hope that you understand. Let's continue.
So not only are men facing these worse outcomes when they get to college, they're less likely to even get there in the first place, because school is built in a way that doesn't work the way that their minds do. This really started in higher education, this whole push to pretend like men and women are exactly the same. Instead of, celebrating those God-given differences, we had to pretend like one size was the right thing for every student.
I think it's actually a problem, or, the Christians can have their own beliefs, but if you insert those types of things, I think it takes away from your argument. I think it takes away, if you want to argue spirituality and religion in different types of ways and lifestyles and the pros and cons, that's fine. But if you insert those types of things, I think it's actually a problem, because a lot of people are going to throw out her debate or her points or her beliefs just because she's a Christian. And now she's a problem, and it also really doesn't help her argument very much. It really doesn't. The reality is that biologically and emotionally and all these things, that there is a difference between men and women. If you don't, it's a whole different argument if somebody wants there to not be a difference. It's a whole different issue if somebody wants to make men and women equal in the quote unquote desirable ways. That's a whole different issue. But men and women are different, and they're supposed to complement each other. They're not supposed to be at odds. And it's funny because again these leftists or these extreme type people can pick and choose what they like. They can say on one hand, or they can say out one side of their mouth, or whenever they want to, that men and women are equal, so men have to accept these types of things that essentially take away their quote unquote privilege on their side. But if you, on the other hand, if you talk about, women have these types of advantages and these types of things, they never address the privilege or the positive or the certain advantages that women have in their ways. So it's essentially a way of double speaking. And I'll make a whole video about double speak, because it needs to be addressed. It really needs to be addressed. But let's continue.
And it's just not. So we really ought to trust the science here and learn that kids need to be.
I love that she mentioned that at least. Trust the science. Because these extreme left type people are the ones who reject science. They reject, health. They reject biology. They reject what's healthy for kids or not. They have agendas and they have programs, and society who cares about society or men or the consequences or even women, if we eventually get what we want and reach our fight for our quote-unquote utopia, what makes us quote-unquote feel good.
In schools that fit the way that they learn best.
And I understand young boys are more, they want to be more hands-on rather than just sitting at a desk and that type of thing. So how about trade schools and technical institutes? Seems like more men are opting out or
I don't want to go through this whole entire video, and this would, I can speak on here for an hour, as y'all know. If you've been watching my content, I kind of do long form. But one of the things I kind of agree and disagree with is their focus on trade schools. Again, men, by and large, are more apt to work with their hands and be more focused analytically and regarding mathematics. And they essentially say that public schools should teach or allow for trade schools, which I do agree. There should be those types of programs available. And getting back in politics, we want to freak out about, this is a whole different topic, but if men were trained or allowed to train in ways and know how to actually defend themselves instead of being vulnerable and making public schools danger zones for kids, we also would be much more safe. But all those types of things are pushed out of public schools. And but they say that public schools should promote these types of things, which are true, and they're kind of encouraging or promoting men to get into trades, which is true. But ultimately, the problem it's not really it is a solution, but it's not the whole solution, because men are still systematically and fundamentally being pushed out of higher paying jobs. They're not being considered or being excluded. Not only is there already affirmative hire, but we have these HR departments which openly hate men and openly want to push men out of society and make things quote unquote equal, and they're fighting for social justice. So they're going to hire everybody except men and white people, and especially if you're a straight white man and if you're Christian, you're openly taught in college to target and exclude those people. Again, I've told you all that story before. And this was a religious private college, and they didn't bother to exclude or to disagree with that type of example. Somebody was like a Christian white conservative type person, and we were taught, and it was really our final. It was the most, arguably, quote unquote, the most important thing we're supposed to learn in the class. It was everything the class essentially built up to, and was the most important thing. And that you as an HR department, you're supposed to look out for these types of people. Look out for people who are confident. Look out for people who have a different lifestyle. If they're a deer hunter, if they're believe in traditional families, if they believe if they're a Republican or a libertarian, or if they're freedom minded, if you can get fired, or you can be excluded from a promotion, or you can people can look down upon you for just celebrating Thanksgiving or Christmas these days. If you were to say Christmas, again, I'm not a Christian, but I'm not even a Christian. I'm fine with saying Christmas. I mean, it's just a word. But if you did say Christmas or Happy Christmas, that's seriously enough for you to for it to be a problem. And again, getting back to men, it's one thing to give men an option. I do agree. More men need to go into trades, but as we go forward, we could already replace 70 or 80% of our jobs with robots. In the future, that will only lead men to be replaced even quicker by technology. And technology has always attempted to replace the mundane. And, again, men could become artisans and create things of beauty and things of skill and things that machines that are difficult for machines to create, things that are handcrafted. But again, the thing is, men are going to be replaced more and more by technology if more and more men focus on trades, and men are already underpaid. And if you're constantly importing just as much people who are born into the country and allowing people to invade in your country, and you're not getting rid of these people, and they're taking your jobs, and they're willing to work for less pay, and they're not taxed, and all these things are competition for those physical jobs that men might have and men might want. So even if they were being paid more, which again I have debated, again, a master electrician, a master plumber, a master mechanic should be paid just as much, or be seen socially or society-wise. They should be of just as high status as, somebody who manages a law firm. And law firms shouldn't even exist. I've spoken about lawyers as well. They should be seen as just as important as a CPA or a CPA firm, somebody who owned a CPA firm if you're a master electrician. And again, CPA shouldn't really even exist either. Again, do you see what I'm saying? A lot of these things that are propped up as important, especially in cities, especially by the government, really shouldn't exist in the way that they do, or at all. And men aren't being paid enough for that. And how are men going to adjust? Again, the world is becoming more and more technological. You need to encourage men to get into STEMs, into science, into engineering, and into computer tech. Encouraging men to simply get into trades is, it is somewhat helpful. There do need to be more men who get into trades, but not all men need to get into trades. Or, if the majority of men switched into trades, that again, what I'm saying is that could potentially be a problem as well. So we can educate and find a solution, but again, if you don't raise your voice, if you don't try to become a good college professor, or oppose these colleges, or create your own college, that opposes these people with a degree, I mean, how are you as a person supposed to overcome or succeed? Because the system is rigged against you. The public schools are rigged against your kids, especially your men, especially if you're able to critically think, especially if you're freedom-minded. The colleges are stacked against you in all those ways, and then as you get into society, it's stacked against you as well. So what I want to talk about as I wrap up this video is that you as a man do have options, but please think about what is in your best interest and how you can help people. And also, as you educate yourself as a man, figure out how to articulate these types of things to people. Because I've talked about, if you say that you're red pill or MGTOW, or bring up anything that could be considered that, if you're talking to somebody who's highly political, they might not even say it, but they will disregard you or oppose you or gossip or tell everybody around you, or possibly try to get you fired or blacklisted. These types of people don't have an issue with doing these types of things. You as a freedom-minded person, somebody who believes in justice and fairness and the economy of things, that economy shouldn't be controlled to further quote-unquote social justice, that the people who are the most intelligent and the most creative and do the most good are the people who should succeed. You need to be able to articulate and formulate your type of your ideas, and help people. And again, you might not even want to debate and or put yourself into any type of risk, but it'd be nice if you did help younger men or help your friends or figure it out a way to educate or help people in a productive or an effective way. Because again, you can't, even if we get a bunch of people, maybe even if we were able to get the majority of people aware of the evils of things like Disney and public schools and these types of things, even if we did get enough people to notice, most of them are still not going to take their kids out of public schools or fight against these public schools. And as you clearly have seen, these teachers and these teachers' unions are open and willing to not only oppose parents and even their parental rights, and target them and even blacklist parents, but they write the history books and these things, and they can openly ignore you, and they can openly organize and communicate with the FBI and the CIA to target you as somebody who creates terror. You know the word. I don't think I can say that on YouTube. The thing is, again, if you do want to fight for freedom and decency, you're going to have to, again, make become a teacher, become lawyers, become politicians, become people of influence and affluence, become leaders, become somebody of high status. And you might even have to hide that. And it would be actually really, really amazing and might be a safer way if you were able to hide this, and then as you're older and you have that FU money, as they say, as you are older and you own these businesses and you become untouchable, and then you start you write a book, or you write a biography, or you you get interviewed, and then you shock society. And they might try to tear down your business, but they can't tear down your business. They can't touch you. People love your product. You have the best product. You have the best ideas. And then they figure out that, you believe there's only two genders, or biologically speaking. And again, if somebody else wants to identify as something else, that's fine. But biologically, there's only two. If you want to have a lifestyle or a mentality of a certain gender, or whatever you might think or say, that's one thing. But it's a whole nother. But you know what I'm saying? Things like that. Basic things that aren't really that shocking. But again, they think it is shocking. So, hope that was a little bit of motivation for you, a little bit of fun. I'm going to try to cover some more videos and content like this. Again, let me know how this video was. Let me know if you want to see more live videos, and let me know if this video was too long. Hope that you enjoyed it. Hope that it was something that was fun and good, and I wish you the very best, my friends. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share the video and tell a friend, and let me know how I can improve my content. I'm here for you, and I'm here. I'm a support for you. I'm here to share wisdom and information, and you can debate or discuss anything and everything in the comment sections below. And I'll see you soon, my friends. Have a beautiful day, and stay well out there. This is Daddy Knows Best. You've gotten a little bit of education here today, and I'll see you soon, my friends. And bye.